Welcome back to Pitching Powerhouse, which is the show for women building and running PR agencies. And if that's you, I am so glad that you're here. Okay, this episode is the one that closes the loop where I left you last week. So if you remember, we talked about how you need to stop selling press and start selling revenue. Start selling visibility, start selling being discovered by their target customers, right? And I ended that episode with a line I want you to sit with for a second. Specificity is what makes that reporting shift land. You can't tie your work to revenue if you don't know exactly who you're serving and exactly what outcome you are driving for them. Which brings me to today's topic. This is the biggest thing that I talk about in running your agency. It is the biggest thing I talk about in helping you increase your revenue and helping you be able to be discovered and land premium clients. And that is niching. This is the decision I watch so many members of our community quietly avoid because it feels like you're leaving money on the table. And I'm going to tell you right now that it is the opposite. It is the opposite. Let's get into it. Okay. So here's the struggle. And I want to name it because I think a lot of you feel this and think you're the only one, but you keep your services broad because narrowing them down feels like saying no to revenue and no to opportunities. The thought in your head is something like, if I niche down, if I limit the kinds of companies that I serve and how I can serve them, that I'm probably cutting my pool of potential clients in half or more. And I want you to hear me on this. That is not a confidence problem, and it is not a you problem. This is a learned pattern, and every single one of us got trained that more services equals more safety. That hustle culture that basically drilled into us that every no is a closed door and every narrowing down of what you can do in your business, who you serve and how you serve them is a potential loss of opportunities. But the real cost of staying broad, and I'm not going to solve it yet, but I want you to sit with it for a second, is when you stay broad, you just blend in and you end up competing on price. And you literally cannot make that revenue argument that I talked about last week because you don't know any one buyer well enough to make that argument convincingly. It's a hard thing to finally come to grips with. I niched the hardest way a person possibly can. And I left an entire profession. I left law to go on one very specific, go down one specific path and do one specific thing. I didn't ease into it. I just went all the way down to one lane. And that is how I found the work that actually fit me. Nobody ever told me to leave law to keep my options open because that's just not how any of this works. So here's what we're doing today. We have 3 reframes. Niching is not subtraction. The generalist, not the specialist, is the one actually leaving money on the table. And your niche is bigger and more flexible than you think it is. So let's go through them because I want to give you some reframes that will kind of help you with this and really see the value in finally making these decisions. So reframe number 1, niching feels like turning away money. That's how you feel, but the reality is it's actually how you become the obvious choice. So the fear is always the same. It's the small pond fear. You think if you narrow down, there is less water to swim in. But here's the truth. Being one of 50 fish in a giant pond is so much worse than being the only fish in a small pond. In the big pond, nobody has to pick you. They can choose any other fish in that pond and they'll be just fine. But in the small pond, you're really the only logical call and they're going to seek you out. I saw this happen in my own business when Generation PR got known for one very specific thing. when we really leaned into our visibility, our results, our clients that had great outcomes, our case studies we could leverage, our testimonials we could leverage in the baby and kids space. That's when we got known for one very specific thing. The referral conversation changed completely. It stopped being, do you know a good PR person? And it became, you have to talk to Jen. She does exactly this. You're launching a baby and kids brand. She's the go-to for doing that effectively. Look at this other work that she's done, and you can see for yourself that they are the expert in that space, and that's who you have to see to successfully launch a baby and kids brand. That is the whole game right there. We don't need everyone in the world to know our name. We just need the right pool of people to know it first. Work on that visibility around that, leverage those results, get that great testimonial from the client who's really happy with the work you did so that other clients in that space can see that you're the real deal. That is the power of niching down. Another reframe, number 2 for you, is you think the generalist is playing it safe, but she's actually not. The generalist is the one that is stuck competing on price. That is not a place that I want to be stuck in. So think back to last week's episode for a second. The specialist makes the revenue argument in her sleep. She knows her buyer. She knows the metrics that matter to them. She knows the players in the industry. She knows the exact publications that move the needle for her in that one specific space. She knows what the trends are, what's going on, who's moving where. She has that whole pipeline memorized. That's me. That's me when it comes to baby and kids, and that's me when it comes to beauty and cosmetics. The generalist, however, is guessing her way across multiple industries, trying to stay on top of things happening, changes that are made. They can't really credibly tie her work to revenue for any of those niches. And, what does she do? She defaults back to reporting impressions, right? Those are the old standby metrics, impressions. And once you're reporting impressions instead of other KPIs that are relevant to your clients in that niche that are tied to their goals and objectives, when that's the only metric that you are showing that matters, you're stuck competing on price. And I want you to really name that trap for what it is, because it's kind of sneaky. It doesn't feel like a trap. It feels like flexibility, but it's not. It's really keeping you stuck, spinning your wheels, feeling burnt out because you're constantly struggling to stay ahead in so many different areas without being a true deep subject matter expert in a niche that you love, that you're great at, where you have great contacts, excellent results, phenomenal case studies that are going to attract premium clients, your ideal clients, like a magnet. That's the power of niching down. And the really cool thing is this shows up right now in AI search too, which we talk about constantly. I mean, as we have to, because that's the shift in our industry. But the specialist owns her category in AI search because her authority is going to stack up in one direction. And that is what LLMs, large language models like, Chat, Perplexity, Claude, they are looking for signals of authority, consistent messaging. That is what niching down and being an expert in a certain industry helps you to do. The generalist authority scatters across different directions and never really adds up to anything and keeps you invisible, because AI doesn't see that as anything worth citing. It's not anything worth sharing with someone who asks a specific question and they want a targeted answer. So hear me on this. Specificity is not a cage. It is leverage. And that is going to help you finally increase your retainer fees to reflect the kind of deep expertise you have and the kind of results you get for companies, brands, and experts in certain niches where you know the space in and out, and you can talk about the players in the space, like the back of your hand. there's just no downside, I'm telling you. Okay. And the third reframe for you, and this is the okay, but what do I actually say section? Because I know that's where a lot of you get stuck. You think your niche has to be an industry, but it doesn't. It can be a type of client. Like we say niche, we think it has to be like tech or healthcare or nonprofits or beauty and cosmetics or fashion or whatever, right? Music industry, entertainment industry. It doesn't have to be an industry. It can be the type of client, the stage of business they're in, the type of service that you do exceptionally well, where you have phenomenal results, certain outcomes that you are great at landing. You could niche by who you serve, founder-led brands, funded startups, women and minority-owned businesses. You can niche by stage, agencies scaling past a certain size or companies that are, just about to go public, or you could niche by outcome. I get you your first national placement, or I have a member of my program right now, Gina, who is phenomenal at landing her clients with very powerful, meaningful local TV segments. That is her niche. And she is really double, tripling down because the results she's gotten for her actual clients really shows prospective clients that she is exceptional at that and moves the needle in the right direction for their businesses. I'm talking segments that land so well for her clients that they are then winning business awards like in their local trade publications and 40 under 40 awards in their industries, stuff like that. So really meaningful local press. That is a niche, right? And they're all valid niches, and none of them require you to only work in, say, skincare forever, right? So here's a line I want you to kind of steal for yourself and fill in the brackets. You want to say something like, I help blank, like a specific client, turn press into blank, which is the specific business outcome. So they blank, and then that is specific result. So I help baby and kids brands turn press into retail sales so they can grow their brand and their retail distribution. I help baby and kids brands turn press into AI discoverability so they can be recommended when their prospective clients are building their baby registry. Say that out loud. And if you can't say it in one breath confidently, your niche isn't tight enough yet. And that's the test. Now, I know, like, I've coached so many people through this, and even the new members of our Agency Accelerator Mastermind, a couple of them are really spinning their wheels and stuck in this niching down decision place, right? And I know the fear underneath all of this. What happens when someone comes to you who's off niche, right? And we have a script for your exact moment when this might happen. This one isn't squarely in my zone of expertise, in my area of focus. And honestly, you deserve someone who lives in this space. So here's who I would send you to. And that's it. That works really well because referring someone out instead of trying to keep them with you and make it work is what is going to actually cement you as a specialist. And the people you refer out to, they're going to start referring back to you. And it becomes this circular, mutually beneficial wheel of referral in the best way possible because you are showing prospective clients your area of expertise, sharing the right service provider for them, adding value by not giving, you're not just leaving them out to dry and you're not taking it and trying to just white knuckle it and figure it out. You're really planting your flag and saying, this is what I do. And that person's going to say, oh, they referred us out and the person they referred us to is excellent. And I happen to know that this is what they focus on because I had a great call with them and they were very helpful, but they weren't the right fit for me. And the person that you're referring work to is going to think of you top of mind because you have very clearly stated, this is my lane and I'm staying in it. One more reassurance before I kind of move on is you're allowed to evolve your niche. Picking one right now isn't like some tattoo that you have to choose and it's there forever and it cannot be changed. I've made quite a few, like right for this season, calls in my business. And honestly, in my time as a mom as well, like things you choose because that's your season of life. That's what's interesting to you. And you can change your mind completely and change it later on. And the world did not end when I chose, let's say when I started, I was beauty, fashion, lifestyle, and we tried fashion. I love fashion as a customer. And I thought, well, of course I love fashion. I'll love fashion as a PR pro too. Why wouldn't I? I did not love fashion. I got to tell you, did not love fashion. You can change your mind and give yourself permission to choose a new niche for right now, not forever. Like you can just test it out, see how it goes. All is not lost if you're able to find a way to go down a certain path and see. I think a lot of what you do work experience wise, and you discover you do something and you don't love it, is also as helpful in giving you direction on where you do want to go because you tried something and it wasn't for you. And you now know, like, that's just not the thing that I want to do anymore. And that's a-okay. And, so don't be scared to make a decision by positioning it as the be all end all end of discussion. You can change your mind and that's okay. And a lot of having the experience is showing you it's what I learned from doing law. I learned exactly what I did not want to do, which was work in an office for someone else, keep track of my hours, billable hours where you have to track down to the 10th of an hour. I'm sorry, if you get up to go to the bathroom and it's more than 6 minutes, which is a 10th of an hour, you have to stop the clock on the client billing. And that's like tracking all of that to me is miserable. I'm never doing that. I've never tracked my hours in 21 years of running my agency. It's not something that I'm willing to do. And practicing law and running my day-to-day like that showed me very clearly that that is not something that I'm willing to do in my business. And so I don't do it. I don't do that, right? So I want time flexibility. I want freedom to pick the kinds of clients I want to work with. And, I'm going on a big trip and set up my business so that I can actually go. I don't have to keep track of hours and meet a certain number of hours every month or every year. I know that that's important to me because I had that in my old career and I don't want to do that anymore. I learned I don't want to do fashion in PR because I don't love tracking sample collections. If I send out a sample with, color cosmetics, I never have to see it again. But with a sample leather jacket, I get one leather jacket. And if I don't get it back, then I'm responsible for that piece and it can't be featured in any more editorial placements because I loaned it out to a publication that never sent it back. That's not something I want to do anymore. So you learn and you can change and that's okay. So if this niche conversation is landing for you today, I want you to know that this is just one piece of a much bigger system. And it is the positioning, pipeline, the reporting frameworks, the AI tools, all of it connecting in a way so that you can position yourself as the go-to authority in a niche that you love, in an area you absolutely love working in, that you're really good at, and that you start to know the key players and decision makers and the trends in your specific niche to serve premium clients that want to work with you because you have shown that you are the go-to authority in their space that gets the kind of results that they're looking for. And all of that connects together. It's just one little piece, but that full system is what we teach inside of the masterclass, how PR agency owners are making themselves more sought after than ever in the age of AI. And I ran this class live. People loved it. I've never had a masterclass where the entire group, maybe one or two people, dropped off and everyone else stayed the entire time. And the feedback we got was exceptional. So we ran it live, but the replay is up right now. So you can watch it at generationacademy.com/June. That link's in the show notes too. I want you to be able to see what factors are at play here in this age of AI to understand how PR is becoming more relevant than ever. And we want you to pick a niche you love and be able to understand how the results we get as PR pros, the features that we're landing, what features and what outlets are going to help your clients be discovered in AI answers. So if they go, it's called answer engine optimization. This is LLMs, large language models like Claude, Perplexity, Chat. They are now seeing and looking at earned media features and high domain authority outlets that we are landing based on our relationships, our industry expertise, our niche expertise, to benefit clients so that their prospective customers are finding them when they go to their AI bot of choice and ask for a recommendation. And your client's brand is now being recommended because of the work you are doing. That's where we fit into this whole shift in the era of AI. So it's exciting. I think that we are more relevant now than ever. It shifted away from that for a little while, and I think we're back, baby. So I'm glad you're here. Thanks so much for being here. Go out there and crush it this week. I'll be here crushing it too. And I will see you next week on another episode of Pitching Powerhouse. Bye.